Hello everyone and welcome to the third update of my free account Ironman challenge. If you do not know what that challenge is all about, then you really should go and see my two previous episodes. In case you really don't want to do that, here is a short summary. As the name suggests, I will be playing on a free account. I won't be able to trade with other players, I won't be able to pick up other players' items, and I won't be able to receive any help from other players. The main point of this challenge is to explore how much content there really is in free-to-play Tibia. Join me in today's episode as I rob the infirm, desecrate an ancient graveyard, and explore the values of arsonry. After obtaining some basic gear, I realized that I was going to have to work on my skills way more than I would usually. To do that, I needed a knife, as well as some additional armor value. Like I mentioned in the last episode, I was planning on getting a knife from ghouls. For whatever reason, that is no longer an option, so I decided to look elsewhere. There is a way to obtain certain rare items that would not only be of great value to me, but also are rather hard to obtain. As you can probably see already, I am talking about the medicine pouches. In the southern part of the swamps of Venor, there is a huge lair filled to the brim with the green-skinned swamp trolls. About 1 in 42 swamp trolls carries around a medicine pouch. For whatever reason, those pouches are vital to curing some sort of swamp disease. Apparently unable to gather those herbs ourselves, our only option of curing that disease is to commit genocide on the swamp trolls. Obviously, as the player character, we cannot exactly catch the disease. There are, however, some NPCs that have it. There is one NPC in particular that gathers them all around and takes care of them in attempts to cure them. Sadly, most of his patients die, which is very fortunate for us because, in exchange for those medicine pouches that we robbed from the swamp troll population, he offers us the belongings that are left behind by the dead patients. Belongings of the deceased may contain various items. Ones that would be of most value to me are, among others, the knife, a scarf, and the boots of haste. I would also gladly welcome the piggy bank. Other items on the drop list are either trash or are only required to unlock certain premium items, which means they also have no value. I've spent some time fighting the swamp trolls and was able to get away with a bountiful amount of 14 medicine pouches. Back in Venor, I met a kind person who mistook me for a beginner and tried to tell me about the promotion. After that, I went straight to Autocar. While I wasn't able to obtain a scarf or the very rare boots of haste, a nice collection of knives was more than enough to make me satisfied with my loot. I stashed them away safely in my magical bank and decided that I wasn't giving up on the scarf yet. As it happens, in a nearby desert, there's a dungeon in which an unfortunate dead person gets restocked with fresh scarves every day. Being unable to receive help from other players, I couldn't complete the desert quest. Despite that, I was able to make use of it, raising my armor rating by a single point. With my neck fairly protected, I was ready to face another challenge. Remember when I said that I was going to obtain plate armor by killing Valkyries? The time has finally come for that. North of Caroline City, there is a small encampment full of Amazons and Valkyries living in a huge tower. There also is a single witch. Since the respawn rates are pretty decent in that place, I didn't expect to spend too much time stuck in there. About 1 in 127 Valkyries should drop a plate armor, and seeing how fast I was able to kill them all, I didn't expect to spend more than an hour in that place. I was wrong. After spending more than 2.5 hours walking round and round up and down the small ladders, getting set on fire by the witch way more often than I was comfortable with, I finally did it. It only took 350 dead Valkyries for me to receive my plate of armor. It just so happens that Valkyries also drop other rare items. They can drop a health potion, 1 in 211 Valkyries, and I got 2 of those. They also dropped double axes, about 100 Valkyries in, I had one even though the chances were 1 in 249. I don't even want to mention how many rare drops I received from the Amazons, or how, having only killed 60 witches, I had 3 bags of apple slices, which are only supposed to drop 1 in 100 witches. Still, the amount of experience I gained, as well as the amount of protective charms that I received, was more than enough to compensate for the sort of bad luck. With my gear looking rather decent, I decided the time has come to improve my weapon. I believed my next best option to be the Wyvern Fang, a single-handed sword that surprisingly drops from wyverns. I tried fighting one of them in that nice singular spot right on the road to Venor. However, I was no match for the winged creature. Highly disappointed, I decided to raise my level, raise my skills, and improve my gear a little bit more before I would attempt to fight the wyvern again. I headed to the Mount Sternum underground caves and spent a couple hours hunting ghouls and skeletons. From time to time I would try venturing even deeper into the caverns in order to slay occasional bone lords, hoping that I would drop the bone lord shield that I was after. Unfortunately, that wasn't an option. Along with bone lords, there would be crypt shamblers, and those hit me like a truck. Thanks to the free prey reroll that I received, the loot that ghouls left behind was slightly boosted. Making use of my free gold converter that I received from my daily login rewards, I left the ancient graveyard with more money than you would expect one could find in such a place. I was now level 29 and it was time to work on my skills. I paid a short visit to a weird temple someone copy-pasted north of Thais and gave 5 old books to an old man. They made a good match. With that I had access to level 1 imbuements. Those would be useful later, though not exactly right now. I then grabbed my dwarven shield and a knife and went to a small village of Greenshore, north of Thais. Many years ago, I used to train as a paladin there, throwing small stones at worms in a weird hole south of the village. Sadly, just like me, the game got quite old, and now Greenshore isn't what it used to be. From time to time it gets crawling with those weird insectoid scouts. The only way to chase them away is to kill enough of the scouts. Sadly, I wasn't able to kill them, if there were more than 2 at once, and while they were present, the hole with the rotworms that I planned to train on would also be filled, not with rotworms, but the insectoid scouts. With my plans shattered and not sure what to do next, I wandered around different places, gaining little amounts of XP until I reached level 30. Having no other choice, I went to Fibula, a weird small village south of Thais, separated from the world by a long underground tunnel. In a not original fashion, underneath the well in Fibula, there is a secret dungeon filled with many different kinds of units. Among many there would be a lot of rotworms that I was going to start training my skills on. In order to access the dungeon, I also needed to purchase a wooden key. You can either get one for 3000 coins from the city mayor, or simply listen to a beggar for a while also presenting him with 800 gold, which makes the old man really happy and pushes him to give us a key. With that I started training. At first I thought my go-to skills would be 75 in sword fighting and 75 in shielding. However, I then started this series and realized that it would take way too long. For that reason, I set up my initial goal to 60 and 60 and started plotting my next move. The two-handed sword, my main weapon, even though it was a great item to have, wasn't exactly the most powerful a knight at my level should be using. Because of that huge handicap, I wasn't able to hunt wyverns very safely, if at all. Besides, seeing how my best shield was the dwarven shield, I didn't really want to resort to using single-handed weapons. And then realized something quite interesting. East of the north there is an elven city named Shadowthorn. It is populated by elves who worship some kind of mud god. Of course, not all elves that live there are huge fans of mud. They aren't exactly any better though, because their idea of fighting the mud believers is to set everything on fire, including themselves, without any outside interference from players. The followers of the bog have the fire elves under control. They are guarded in very damp underground prisons by a very rare kind of elf, the so-called elf overseer. There are only 3 of them, and if a player kills them, they cannot respawn. Should you kill all 3, the fire elves will be able to break out and set that whole castle on fire. Only once you extinguish it once again will the elf overseers respawn. The reason why I am so interested in the elf overseers is the fact that they have a chance of dropping a crystal sword. Its attack power is way higher than the wyvern fang, and also it is a two-handed sword with a very good defensive values. I went on a short trip to locate the places where those elves would respawn, only to find them quite obviously long dead. To have a chance of obtaining that sword, I would have to log in very shortly after the server save occurs, and then probably still have to compete with other players who had the same idea, though for very different reasons. You only have to kill 50 elf overseers to finish their bestiary entry, which makes them highly sought after, even though their respawn rates are quite ludicrous. That, however, wouldn't stop me from chasing after the elusive crystal sword. Not only would it be great for progression, but I also liked the way it looked quite a lot. I would spend about 20 more hours training on rotworms in Fibula, while still plotting how to get my hands on that mighty weapon. That more or less concludes our today's update. I'm afraid the next one will take quite a while longer, because I simply didn't obtain most of the items I had in mind for my next update. Today's episode covered over 30 hours of raw footage and more or less catches up to the spot where I am at currently. So please, if there is no video tomorrow, do not panic. I am still working on it and I will definitely be keeping you updated. But also don't be surprised if that time doesn't come in a month or even longer. Thank you very much for watching. You are very welcome to subscribe if you enjoy this sort of content and do not want to miss my next update. If you have any questions, any suggestions or would like to talk with me directly, I have created a Discord server. There will be a description down below and I would love to have you there. Once again, thank you very much for watching and I will see you next time.